Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us today for our presentation. My name is Dan Overgag, and I'm the VP of our Business Operations and Transformation Practice at Spur Reply. And I am honored to co-present with Aaron Farrell, who's the director of our Asana Services practice within Spur. And we are really excited to talk to you about something that is probably on everybody's minds today, which is AI adoption. So raise your hand if that resonates and you're thinking about AI and how to incorporate it into your business. Okay, it's pretty unanimous in terms of hand raising. We're here to talk about AI adoption, but not so much the technology, and the technology is important, but we're really here to talk about the people readiness side of AI adoption and how you can really ensure that your adoption efforts are successful. Today's session is called From Resistance to Results, Evolving Your Business with AI, because we understand that with a lot of enthusiasm for AI, there are a lot of challenges at the same time that we'll walk through. Today, we're hoping that you're going to walk away with an understanding of a framework that we will share and how it can be applied to your business. We'll share some best practices that we've learned over the course of many years consulting and really pivoting our business and our focus toward AI. And then lastly, we're actually really fortunate that we get to bring up one of our customers, Erica Bruning, to talk about how she's actually adopted AI within her own organization and integrated it into the daily work that she and Palo Alto Networks do. So with that, I'd say we move forward.
Let's do it. So, before we get to the exciting things that Dan mentioned, we realize some of you might not have met us yet. And so, who is Spur Reply? It's a question that we get often. Some of you stopped by our booth today. You might have seen us in the keynote in a few places. Spur Reply is a go-to-market consulting firm. We're based in Bellevue, Washington, and we've been an Asana partner for a few years. We more broadly consult an end-to-end go-to-market strategy, execution, partner ecosystem, audience enablement, all kinds of things. But in the midst of that, we work with Asana customers like you, and we help to implement new instances. We help to optimize what you already have. We are experts in AI. Everything that you're seeing here today, our team is knowledgeable, they're skilled, they'd be happy to answer any questions for you. But we are also honored that in 2024, we were Asana's Partner of the Year in the Americas. Our consultants really specialize in one thing, which is making transformation stick. And so throughout our session today, we'll share with you some ideas and look forward to continuing the conversation with you later. While it's exciting to talk about transformational change and how AI is unlocking significant potential, let's start to separate a little bit of that buzz from what's real.
Okay, I think we can all agree and come to a common understanding of why we're here. The opportunity with AI is truly enormous. You've heard it on all the presentations today, probably every conference and event that you go to, it's top of everyone's mind. The opportunity really is there. Companies that get this right and really focus on the people readiness side of AI adoption, they show a 40% increase in productivity from employees that use AI in their daily work. That's significant. That's a very impressive productivity gain. But, sorry, no, I'm on the right slide still. But there are challenges. 70% of digital transformations fail to meet the desired results, and they fail to meet the objectives set out with the digital transformation. On top of that, only 5% of AI initiatives actually deliver P&L impact that's measurable. That's also significant. And so what you run into are important AI initiatives that have a lot of potential, but don't have the desired impact.
And it gets even more challenging. So 28% of organizations have an AI change management plan. That's good. But that means that 72% of organizations don't, or they're still building one. And we know that organizations that have successful change management are 7 times more likely to land their business objectives.
And here's the thing. The difference between success and failure isn't just a technology challenge. Now, certainly technology is a piece of it. It is very important that the technology works together, that you're getting the right permissions from your AI, that you're giving it the right access, the right context. All of those things are really, really important. But what can be a difference maker is the approach that you take with your people and the individuals within your organization. It's whether you're treating AI adoption as a technology project or whether you're treating it as a people transformation that's actually going to determine whether you're successful at the end of the day.
So let's talk about what gets in the
I
way.
got a
Not quite, Dan. Get a
little
little ahead of
little
yourself
trigger
here.
happy. Sorry.
Let's talk about what gets in the way. We've worked with hundreds of organizations, and we've seen the same patterns emerge again and again. We've started to think about these hurdles as the four S's: strategy, skills, signals, and systems. And these aren't theoretical concepts. These are real things that leaders and the organizations are facing. Maybe you have a vision and you have a lot of excitement for AI, but no real path to execution. Or perhaps there's a gap between what AI can do and what your people know that they can do or feel comfortable doing with it. Information overload is very much a thing. How do you turn that into insights that people can trust and make decisions from? And then, above all, maybe your infrastructure is just not made for it. Your platforms aren't necessarily set up for seamless AI integration. You have governance by committee that's slowing things down. And if any of these sound familiar, maybe it's because you're experiencing at least one or all of them. Let's dig in a little bit more.
Now we can go to the strategy piece. So, strategy is one of the key hurdles that Aaron talked about that we often see with customers. And what that often looks like are AI initiatives that are completely divorced from any sort of strategic direction. Does that sound familiar? People just kind of running pilots on their own without any sort of backbone? Yeah, it's something that we see quite a bit. It may also look like, leadership being very enthusiastic about AI and thinking about how they can implement it in their business, but that enthusiasm may lack real support. When it push comes to shove, our leadership, are they investing real resources towards AI? Are they willing to make hard decisions when it comes to AI adoption and getting the organization ready for, the next wave of future? Is there optimism for AI outpacing the operational readiness within the organization? And here's what can happen. You do have executives and leadership teams that are really enthusiastic, really, optimistic about what it can mean. But the individuals on the ground, they're not there. They're not ready. They're unable to see the vision and understand why it's important for them. And what can happen is your AI adoption efforts can flounder a bit. The executives may think that you're further along in your journey when you're really not. So you're unable as an organization, if you don't have that unified strategic backbone, to move from, AI pilots to a strategic backbone and direction and set of levers that you're going to go after that really bring it all together.
So, skills, this is the people piece. And this is actually where a lot of initiatives fail. Your employees are nervous, not because they don't want to adopt AI, but they still have some questions. Am I going to have a job in a year? I've seen this training that seems pretty generic. I don't really know how it fits into my role. I saw this great new AI technology that I really want to use, but what does that look like for me day to day? And when people aren't prepared, when they don't trust the change, that's when resistance grows because, like Dan mentioned earlier, AI is not just a technical transformation, it's fundamentally a people transformation. So if your people don't have the skills and they don't trust the direction, you're going to have a really hard time implementing that change.
Yeah. And when we talk about signals, ignoring or potentially not actively looking for signals from your organization is another area where AI adoption often stalls out. Signals are certainly a reflection of the data and the data quality that you have within your organization. But think broader. It's a lot bigger than that. You have signals coming from your organization all the time. That's through the level of engagement that you might see across your teams, participation in the AI trainings that you're undoubtedly running, the number of people that are participating in AI hackathons, right? There's all sorts of signals that you're getting at any given time. The challenge is those signals And that information that you're getting from your organization that reflects the adoption of your AI initiatives are often missed, or they're not captured. Or even worse, they might be captured, but they're not being used to inform the direction of your AI initiatives. They're not being leveraged as part of some of the key decision-making elements that you might have. These signals that you're getting from your organization are what can really tell you whether your AI adoption efforts are on track, whether they're behind, where there might be pockets of change resistance that you really need to focus on and address with certain audiences. It may also tell you where you have mistrust or misinterpretation of that very important AI strategic vision that you've established, hopefully. Looking for and putting mechanisms in place to capture this feedback is what allows you to help transition from noise to clarity within your organizations, from overwhelmed teams to empowered ones that feel they understand how to use the AI in their daily work.
And finally, the infrastructure that either enables or prevents scale. So your systems maybe weren't meant for AI. Your governance by committee starts to slow every decision. Who has access to what data? What about compliance? These questions are, number one, critical. They're extremely important. But two, nobody wants to get them wrong. And so solving these challenges slows things down. We can hold things up indefinitely. And systems are the scaffolding for AI. When that system is weak, even your best strategy, your most skilled people aren't going to be able to impact the change that you want. All right, so here's the question. Which of these hurdles is your organization facing right now? Maybe a couple of them?
Oh, I'm sure. So we've talked a little bit about the four S's and then what gets in the way. The other really important thing to recognize and understand when it comes to AI adoption is everyone adopts change in a very different way and at a very different pace. This is the classic Kubler-Ross change curve, probably familiar to folks that, are into change management or have done any sort of change management. But this really outlines and maps the emotional journey that individuals go through when they're dealing with significant change in your life. And make no mistake, AI is a very transformational, impactful, significant change for people. So it can be hard. And here's the trick: everyone in this room, everyone on your team, they're probably on a different spot on this change curve right now. You have some folks that are potentially still in denial,
Mhm.
asking themselves, yeah, this AI thing, it's just hype. It's not going to really change the way things work. You have others that might be stuck in frustration and dejection, what we call the change trough. And what happens there is people, they may have tried it, but it didn't work for them, or they
Mhm.
don't trust the results. And so they get frustrated and it can stall out your adoption efforts. On the other side, you might have early adopters who are clear over there on the engagement and they're adopting and they're integrating it into their worthy work. Now, the trick is, of course, everyone is on a different spot on this change curve and everyone works through this change curve their own pace. Now, another challenge is you might have leadership that is totally bought in. They're very engaged. And I talked about this earlier in the strategy phase, but the individual teams and the individual contributors, they might still be way over here. So they may be enthusiastic, but the organization isn't ready. Now, the inverse is true too. You may have individual contributors, team members that are very engaged and they're pushing for change. They're pushing for AI as, being integrated into their ways of working, and leadership's not quite there because, well, they probably haven't figured out a unified strategy. They're not sure what it's going to mean for their business. They're not sure, how to resource it, all of those things. So you can end up with different audiences on different sides of this change curve. And that's why, you know, a one message, one size fits all approach, messaging, expectation of timeline doesn't really work. You really have to think about a framework that's going to identify where people are at and help them move through this change curve in a very systematic and structured way.
Mhm. And that brings us to Land It, our structured yet adaptable and a human centered framework for navigating change. We call our methodology Land It because it really emphasizes the importance of landing big transformations And we're not just hitting a go live date. We're not just hitting a solution implementation. This is how we navigate that change curve that Dan was just talking about. It's based on our client experience, but it's also based on a blend of some significant methodologies like ProSci and Cotter and Bridges and others that you might have encountered. We've integrated our experience into this methodology, and it's something that we'll walk through. Maybe you can take away a few things from it. The first phase is leadership. This is where you get your executives truly aligned, really understanding the why, committed to the vision and sponsoring the change. Next is the assessment phase. This is where we figure out who's impacted, how significantly, and how are they ready. Next up is navigation, which is kind of the heart of what people really think of as change management. This is when you're communicating, you're training, you're mobilizing your people, kind of moving toward the future state that you want. Along the way, we have a lot of data. We have stakeholder feedback. We have progress measurement. So you know what's working, what's not, what you might still need to adjust. Then eventually we move into integration. This is where the change starts to become part of your operations. It becomes part of your culture, part of your rhythm of business, maybe a more natural thing that you're experiencing. And then finally, transition is where we hand it off. This is we've done the thing. We can hand it over to operations to manage. We now feel confident that we have a plan for some future change, and people are generally feeling good about where we've started, where we've come together. One thing that I do want to point out is that while it's a really nice linear model, it often is not that way in real life. It's a lot more dynamic. You might be in one phase and then maybe a couple steps back to a previous phase, and then you're going to jump to the end. And so we'll talk about it in a linear way, but know that it's not broken if you're jumping around.
Yeah. And here's where it all comes together. The landed framework that Aaron so eloquently walked us through is kind of the methodology. That's your framework for moving through significant change. And that can be applied toward the 4S hurdles that we talked about earlier. So when you think about strategy, the way that you can address that is through focusing on the leadership side, the L in landed, if you will. And remember, when we talk about strategy hurdles, that includes the disconnected objectives from the actual efforts that are happening. It's optimism outpacing operational readiness. And it's during the leadership phase that you really want to focus on aligning leadership toward a strategic direction, articulating the why. Why
Mhm.
are we changing? Documenting and articulating and messaging, what is changing and what's not changing. Acknowledge that there are going to be endings potentially in the change and that there are going to be changes in the way people that work. But if you can tie that with a clear vision, if you can tie that with a set of strategic objectives that give guiding principles and a North Star to people that are in your organization, you're going to be much more successful. And ultimately, this is how you move from kind of AI or fragmented AI pilots and everyone moving toward a single unified direction.
Mhm. So when you're hitting this skills hurdle, employees who are fearing displacement or a lack of trust, low AI literacy, this is where assessment and navigation are really going to work together for you. So in the assessment, you're going to stop making assumptions about where people are and really listen. Maybe you visualize the change from your team's perspective, not from IT or leadership. Maybe you figure out where teams are on that change curve and you help to bring people along if they're still in the early stages. And then navigation takes that understanding and it turns into action. You deliver role specific training. You prioritize quick wins. You communicate frequently and empathetically. And finally, you create forums where leaders are visible with teams working through things side by side. This is how you build trust and skills together that make AI adoption possible.
Okay. All right. Quick pulse check. How many of you have launched an AI initiative within your organization to one team and had great success, but maybe struggled when you tried to scale that out to other teams? Show of hands. Okay. I see a number of them. If that if that applies to you, how many of you are still sitting there with that pilot, not really dead, but not really like thriving either? It's just kind of sitting there. Yeah, still some hands. And we see that a lot. And that's kind of the signals again that you're getting from your organization that, ooh, we need to potentially change our approach in driving our AI adoption. Throughout the Land It framework, the data phase really kind of underscores all of the pillars, of course. But again, I want to reiterate that it's not just, the technical data, the usage, consumption, things like that, but we're really talking about, metrics that indicate people readiness. And using pragmatic measurement tools such as engagement surveys, of course, could be qualitative feedback that you're getting from your one-on-ones with your teams or broader team meetings. It could be training scores, training participation. Like I mentioned it earlier, but like, are people participating in your hackathons or whatever you might be doing to encourage AI adoption and growth? But understanding and collecting that information and then feeding that back into your organization and into your leadership team so that decisions can be made with a people readiness view, not just a technology view, is really, really important. And that's how you can start to tell, are we actually moving toward true adoption as an organization, or are we kind of stuck on surface level, check the box type of adoption where people are saying, yeah, I've done it, but it's not really being adopted and integrated into ways of working?
And when you're facing systems hurdles, governance gaps, compliance questions, sometimes ethical concerns, this is where integration and transition work together to build lasting scale. So at this point, you've embedded AI into your long term infrastructure, it's in your processes, it's in how you operate. You've conducted retrospectives and you've documented how everything's working. You can, plan for that next transformation. You also ensure that everything impacted is accounted for systems, people, tools. This is how you move from pilots into enterprise solutions that really scale and that stick around over time. And collectively, this is the power of Land It. It's not just a project plan. It's not just a moment in time. It's a systematic way to overcome the real hurdles that you and your teams are facing when you're working through something new like AI adoption. So, we've given you a few things to think about between the four S's and the hurdles and our Land It framework. We're not here today just talking about a tool or a framework. We're talking about partnership and transforming how work gets done. Spur Reply is proud to be an Asana partner. We want to be an integral part of your successful Asana adoption, your successful AI adoption, but we need you for that. You are the one who knows your business. You know what you're facing. You know what success looks like. Asana is a world-class collaborative work tool that is AI enabled,
Mhm.
brings everything all into focus in one place. And partners like us bring change management and transformation that can make everything stick. So please continue the conversation with us. But right now, I'm going to hand it back over to Dan.
Okay. So, Aaron and I, we can talk frameworks, we can talk theories all day long. And like, I've talked to some people out in the hall. You put a token in me and ask me to talk about change management, I'll go forever. So, we're going to actually pivot because I think the best way to understand and see AI adoption is to actually talk, excuse me, frog in my throat, talk to somebody who's actually lived it. So, our team has had the pleasure over the last year plus to work with Palo Alto Networks, and we've been recently supporting their teams in integrating AI workflows into their IT intake process, into their IT communication generation process. And our key collaborator through this effort has been Erica Bruning, who's a senior IT business operations manager. And her goal at Palo Alto is to turn vision into reality by creating high level goals and strategies that deliver, immediate value and immediate impact to the organization. She and her team have recently undergone some significant transformation when it comes to AI, and they've been really successful in shifting from resistance to results. So, Erica, we are super thrilled to have you, and welcome to the stage with us. Thank
Yeah,
you very much.
come on up.
All right. So, Erica, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure working with you and your team for quite some time. And you've had a very fascinating AI journey, I would say, within Palo Alto Networks. So, as we start, I am curious, when you first started your AI journey, where did you see pockets of resistance within the organization?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think we faced what's a really common issue, which is just ambiguity in the AI vision. It's my experience that people don't resist new technology, but they're certainly going to resist change without clarity. And I think a prime example for us in IT and at Palo Alto Networks was when we actually deployed Gemini to the enterprise. I'll be honest, we were ready to go with the deployment a little bit sooner than we were ready to go with the training sessions and the enablement sessions. And so a scrappy team was put together, myself included, and we came out with a really robust training plan. And we also came up with some really strong ways to measure adoption and change for leadership visibility. I'm really proud to say the result of that effort was we had about 8,500 Palo Alto Networks employees engage with one or more of those sessions. And at the end of this whole enablement period, we saw about 80% of our licensed users as actually daily active users within Gemini.
That's amazing.
That's an incredible result. So, after that early learning with Gemini, now how is Palo Alto Networks bringing the team through that navigation phase in AI adoption?
I'll speak to an example that I'm really excited about in IT, which is the org that I sit in. And we've developed a program, we call it the AI Warrior Program. And really, this program has two core elements to it. One is teaching core AI skills to our IT org. So we have our enterprise AI leadership teaching us all about things like prompt engineering, context engineering, the latest in vibe coding, how to develop agents, right? All of these foundational and incredibly fast-paced and changing elements of the AI workforce. The other element of this program is an opportunity to spotlight teams that have taken what they've learned in these sessions and applied it to real business problems that Palo Alto Networks is facing. And I think what's so great about this is it really does two things here to solidify change, right? We are being very clear with our IT org what the expectation is for AI literacy. We are then offering opportunities to teams who have taken on that challenge and have succeeded with it and really spotlighting and rewarding them. But if I take a further step back too, I think that this program does something else as well. Yes, it certainly ensures that our IT org and that Palo Alto Networks will continue to be competitive in the marketplace. But it's also working to position our teams as really leaders in the intelligent application of AI.
Yeah, I love that the idea of people tackling real business problems and then showcasing and kind of teaching others along the way. So, what are some of the signals that you've seen since the AI Warrior program developed?
I think what's most exciting is really this true democratization of AI skills and AI knowledge. And what I mean by that is since we set up this program, I'll be honest, we originally developed it with developers in mind, right? Our primary concern was how can we ensure that our developers can not only meet but exceed the demands of all of this new AI information and knowledge. But what's been really exciting is the more sessions that we have, yes, our developers are very much in the loop and participating, but so too are our product managers, our program managers, our IT business operations managers, right? We are all learning the same skills that maybe some of us wouldn't have had access to otherwise.
Yeah.
And I think what's most exciting about that is this sort of capacity, it uplifts all of us. And ultimately, what that's going to do is it helps IT's ability to increase our delivery velocity and ultimately help our company go to market quicker.
That's amazing. And I'm looking at times. We probably have time for one more question. Apparently, Aaron and I were a little verbose, but I think that everyone here and everyone's teams, as we've mentioned, are probably at different spots. And some may be just at the beginning of their AI journey and their AI transformation. Some may not have started. But if you were talking to someone in this room, what would be one piece of advice that you would give them on how to ultimately be successful with their AI transformation?
I hope it doesn't sound like too much of a platitude here, but my one piece of advice would be that AI adoption and readiness is everyone's responsibility, especially your own, especially as leaders. If you're leading teams, if you're leading organizations, if you're leading companies, it's your responsibility to set a strong tone at the top, but it's also your responsibility to participate in what that culture and organizational shift is. This can't be achieved by just an email or a memo if people still write those or, some fancy slides. You really have to actively demonstrate the strategic importance of what you're trying to change. A great example of, again, for us in IT is our CIO, Mira. She actually participates in all of our AI Warrior sessions. I know she could run laps around us for knowledge on AI, but she takes time out of the week, every week, to workshop with us, to sit with us, to see where we're getting stuck, to help see how maybe we can pivot some of these new learnings to business solutions, right? She's really demonstrating in real time that this is important to her as well. And I think that level of engagement has made such a difference and has made this a change that for us hasn't stalled. It really has created quite a bit of value for us. Something else that I would say too, I'd be remiss if I didn't put a plug in here too, but if you're sitting in the audience today thinking, wow, this all sounds great, but I don't have a team to help me get started on this and I don't know where to turn. I think that's where a team like Spur Reply really comes in here, where they can help build a lot of that high value very quickly and effectively for you.
Erica, thank you. We really appreciate that. So, what you just shared, the importance of meeting people where they are, finding quick wins, and very visible leadership sponsorship, that's exactly what we see in successful transformations. It's not about having a perfect plan, it's about having a framework that lets you adapt, it lets you measure, it lets you adjust. We're right up against the wire here. So, just a couple more things. I think what we really want you to take away from today is that you can lead confidently through AI transformation when you address hurdles with a really scalable, adaptable, people centered framework like Landit. That's how you thrive with AI. We would love to talk with you some more about it. Dan's going to share some ways that you can.
And, what would any good presentation be without a couple of call to actions? So to kind of wrap us up, I would say first, come visit us at our booth. We'd love to talk about how our Landit framework might be applicable to your AI adoption efforts and maybe diagnose where you might be running into hurdles and what those hurdles might be and how you might start thinking about Landit as a mechanism to address those. Alternatively, you're welcome to schedule a AI readiness assessment with someone from our team to, again, kind of deep dive into, all right, where are you having successes? Where are you falling behind? Where are those pain points that we might be able to help point you in a direction to ultimately let you be successful?
Yeah. And finally, thank you. Thank you for joining us. Thanks to Asana for having us, for bringing us all together here. And we look forward to seeing more of you soon.
And
Thanks.
thank you, Erica, again.
Thank you. Dan.